It's really, really great to be here, and Carol and I are very happy to be around to wish City Chapel a very, very happy birthday. And it's good to have the sense of life and vitality, that sense of fellowship and fun, which we sense as we come in. So we are really, really privileged to be friends with Jonathan and Abby and have kind of walked with them over these past couple of years and before that. And the truth of the matter is that the first time Jonathan and I met, it wasn't just that he came to give me a bit of a hard time about what I was doing with an international speaker, but actually he came to talk to me about an educational program. That's actually the agenda we talked about. And ever since then, it's been very evident in my mind that he has had a bigger vision for the people of God serving the community at large as a part of our worship. So we've admired and honored both your aspiration and vision, but also your growth and grace. At least I think it was the education thing was the main thing, and then the other thing was a subtext. I'm not sure. It may have been that he was smarter than I thought, and he came to tell me off on the education thing. I don't know. And so good to walk in and see Dave and Pat, who I one of my very favorite couple in Christian worship. Massive integrity, talent. And just to walk in and see both of you, just such a blessing as well. And I'm seeing a few friends from the past and recent present, and I'm so grateful just to have that sense of fellowship and fun. Look, when I was in primary and secondary school, about 20 years or so ago, what's funny? I used to love some sports. I wasn't too bad at football. And in fact, at one point, I was, I think, vice captain for the football team in my secondary school at first and second year. And I can understand that because, you know, you kick the leather thing, you aim for the net, and you try to stop the other people from putting the ball in the net behind you. Straightforward enough. If you had one goal and they had 0, that was good. If they scored 2 and you had 1, that was bad. So you try to redress the balance. Pretty straightforward equation, really. Cricket was slower, but I still got cricket because the idea is that you try and pile as much runs on the board as you possibly can without losing too many of the people on your team. And if the balance went the other way, you tried very hard to check the balance, and you knew that if you had limited overs, you had to get a certain score before you finished the overs you could bowl. So generally, I understood cricket. Sprinting, I used to love sprinting. That 100 meters thing was what I did occasionally, round about till my second or third year in school. And then I discovered I was faster in my head than I was with my feet. You know, that kind of problem? And what I used to love about the sprint, the 100 meters dash, was that you could stay on the starting line, your adrenaline going, the blood pumping, the rush going through you, the sensitivity to those who are on your left or your right. You'd sussed out who is where along the kind of speed limit down the track, and you knew kind of where you were, how much effort you'd have to pump into. But what was really nice about the 100-meter sprint was you could actually stay from the starting point and see the tape. And that made a lot of sense. You could actually see the tape. Because then you knew when the whistle blew, you had to get up as fast as you could, dig your toes in, and make for that tape. Very, very straightforward. The sport I couldn't stand was long-distance running. I could not understand why it was that they would turf us out, summer, winter, autumn, it's very unusual. Summer, winter, autumn, and put you out. Yeah, City Chapel, somebody said, a conversion has taken place. I won't drink it now in case there's something in it. So I could never understand that. And I used to think that long distance was a kind of spiteful thing which teachers did to you, particularly in the winter when there's frost. And you never did long distance around the school, did you? You had to go in some field, some country place with trees and birds and, all that kind of stuff. And there was no sense of proportion in my head. Where is the finishing line? Who knows if somebody is moving it anyway, further and further away from wherever you're running? What are you running for? How fast are you going? Who is where? Are you last or first or second? Yeah, I just kind of lost all sense of proportion. So long distance never ever really got my game, really. It was just indeterminate kind of factor. I think I lost an important principle, which probably helps anybody doing any kind of sport. In fact, any kind of journey you're making, you need, I think, 3 dimensions to your journey. If you're celebrating a second birthday at City Chapel, if you are celebrating 1 year in marriage, 31, 34, Carolyn and myself, if you are looking for a professional journey, if you are on the Christian path, you were a Christian last year, you became saved 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and you're trying to head for the tape in that undecipherable future, you actually, I think, have to have 3 things in your heart and mind. The first is, it's really important to look behind. And then the second thing, which I think is important, it is very important to look around and within. And then thirdly, it's very important to look ahead and have a sense of future perspective. So you've got to look behind, and then you have to look around and within, and then you have to look ahead. And I guess what I want to share with you in these next 2 hours, as Jonathan has asked me to speak to you, is something around that. This is one of my favorite texts, and you will know it. My version might sound just a wee bit different from yours. This is Hebrews chapter 11 and 12. Just the last little incy-bincy bit of chapter 11, verse 39, and then into 12, 1 and 2. Okay, so here we go. All these were approved through their faith, but they did not receive what was promised, since God had provided something better for us, so that they would not be made perfect without us. The Authorized Version says something like, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Therefore, since we have also such a large cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us, Authorized, besets us, and run with endurance, with patience in the Authorized Version, the race that lies before us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the source and perfecter, author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that laid before him, endured the cross, despised the shame, and sat at the right hand of God's throne. And I rather like that, because there is that sense of looking behind. You know, Hebrews 11 is this catalog of faith heroes. It's a funny kind of thing about us. When we think of what is faith and what is dynamic faith, we tend to run towards Hebrew 11. Quite right, because Hebrew 11 has this list of great faith heroes. They overcame, they did miracles, they survived against incredible odds. And we think of these faith heroes as people who came along and did stuff in the past, and now they're gone, forgotten, written up in the Bible, and now we're on the scene, you see. But what we haven't really taken sufficient notice of is this, that in a strange way, in a very powerful way, they're in the same race as us. So maybe the analogy isn't so much the long distance, but the relay race. And there's a sense in which you and I, when we look behind, we have a sense of perspective. You know it. No athlete who is worth their stuff doesn't have a sense of the history of their sport. You can't be at the top of your game. You can't be in the top league. You can't be a full-time, frontline professional and have absolutely no historic perspective on your game. You know who won the last cup, the one before that, the one before that, the one before that. You know their form, you know their time, you know their performance. And in a funny kind of way, you actually feel attached to them. You're part of their history. They're a part of your present. So here's the thing. A Christian with a loss of memory is a very dangerous person because you think that you are the biggest cheese on the planet. You think that Christian faith kind of starts with you. But there's something very powerful about the past which we must import into the present. Have you ever had that kind of situation? It happened to me last night, where you ended up in the kitchen of your house. And you came down and you thought, why am I here? What was it again I came for? And you thought, and you thought, and you thought, and you thought, and you're getting more and more annoyed because you can't remember why you're in the kitchen. So what did you do? You remember the last place you were, where you started your journey, and you went back to the bedroom, and maybe either on the way back up the stairs or along the corridor back to the bedroom, or when you actually arrived in the bedroom, you saw the thing which triggered the thought which sent you to the kitchen. Has that ever happened to you? Thank the Lord. I am so pleased to hear that. Yesterday on telly, on the Discovery Channel, they had a documentary about a guy, I can't remember his name, who'd lost his memory. It was a very strange thing. He lost his memory for about 8 months, had no idea who he was, discovered he could play the guitar at a moment's notice. So there was something about his history which sprang into the present, which told him that in the past he used to play the guitar, but had no memory until eventually they tracked his family. His father wrote to him. He had proof that that was his dad, got back, restored his memory after 8 to 9 months. He said something really incredible at the end of that journey. He said, having had my past restored to me is like getting my life back again.